guests. I know your next guest because I helped him out yesterday.
What's his name
then?
then?
Credit. It's JB.
JB.
Yeah? It's close?
That's close enough. Indeed, it is JB. Always known affectionately as JB. Full name John Brown. John, this guy has interviewed me more times than I can remember, and now I'm on the other end. You've interviewed me for Grand Prix, endurance races, TTs, trade magazines, all sorts of stuff.
Even this year's magazine on the boat.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've not seen that actually.
No.
So John, you've interviewed me all these times, and now I'm going to get my own back. Firstly, you've been coming to the TT for a long, long time. How long would that be?
Well, first time I came here was 57, in Golden Jubilee. Guzzy V8s and all that stuff, yes.
Was that professionally or just as a spectator?
No, I was a sort of spectator really in those days, but it wasn't long before I was doing bits because I worked in journalism. I worked for local newspapers, Gravesend and Derby Reporter, Derbyshire Times, always on the move. And I always started a motorcycle column, and with that I always started coming to the TT before the end of the 50s into the 60s to do about the local riders. So I started then, and then obviously went on to motorcycle news.
Which was when?
Oh gosh, I knew you were going to ask me. 1966.
You knew as well.
I did.
Now that was an important year, 1966, wasn't it?
Yes.
Why?
I don't know.
And you know what?
No,
Neither do I. No, I was thinking of the boat strike. Was that 60?
That was after that.
Yeah,
that was after that, when we had the banks and the TT all in one lump, as it were. Yeah, that's right. I did the TT part, but then they sent me home. I think they thought I had enough Ocals by then, and my Ocal content was sort of brimming over. They sent me back to Kettering.
I know this is putting you on the spot a little bit, but you've propped the round bar up with the best of them over the years, and drunk in the Dog's Home and places like that with the best of them. Have you got something, the quick anecdote you could tell us about those days?
Oh God, you've thrown it at me there, haven't you, really? I suppose the round bar used to bring back lots of that sort of memories, didn't it, really? Because it was on days when people used to get in there, didn't they? And Mike Harwood used to get in, and Reedy would get in, and all that sort of thing, all the bickering that used to go on. You've really thrown me a tricky one here, haven't you, really?
I apologise for that.
I think probably getting thrown out of the Dog's Home is one of the worst things that ever happened to me. As you know, the rules of drinking over here in those days was pretty strict. And if you put your beer down on the counter at 10 to 11 and that was it, they just brought their shutters down. And I'd had a little discussion with the gentleman behind the bar who trapped my half-drunken pint behind the bar and told him that I didn't like him very much and things like that. And the gentleman arrived with a white helmet on and suggested I better calm myself down. I wasn't working for a newspaper then, I must admit. I was with the lads on my AJS.
Oh, right.
I've got to tell you, can I just tell you a quick one?
Please, keep telling me.
I do have the distinction of falling off a bike at Ballaugh Bridge. This was while going out to watch practice one evening on my AJS. And we wanted to get to Ballaugh Bridge particularly to see them coming over the bridge. And we were running a bit late and the roads were going to close, the usual thing. So we went over Ballaugh Bridge and JB puts his foot on the back brake, doesn't he, like a twit, wang down the road, bike into the wall of a pub on the corner there, rushed into the first aid department, you see. I'm sort of reasonable, I think. But of course, I got a bird's eye view then of the practice from the garden at the side where the first aid unit is. And how many mates did I suddenly collect, we're looking after him, miss, and all that sort of thing. But that was right, I did feel a bit embarrassed sitting in the middle of the road at Ballaugh Bridge on a road bike, That's it.
Now, because you've been coming to the Isle of Man for so long, you've seen so many different riders, you've met so many, were friendly with so many riders, not just knew them to talk to and just do an interview, but you were very friendly with a lot of riders. Who to you has been the epitome of the TT over the last, all those years, 50 years I suppose, getting on 45 anyway? Yes,
it's a tricky one, isn't it, really? I suppose it always comes back to Mike Hayward, because Mike Hayward really was great fun. That goes back, I should remember one day at the round bar, Mike Hayward in the round bar, in the early hours of the morning with the seagulls flapping and the birds chirping. He and I walking from the round bar up to the Glencutchery Road, up the road there, and I thought, this is ridiculous. Here I am walking up the road, a silly journalist with Mark Hayward. But that was quite a sort of a morning. But yeah, he was really, he lived it and enjoyed it, and he was so open and friendly with everybody, wasn't he? And then Aggo, I suppose, when Aggo was here, he was a great character, wasn't he, really? All the girls loved him and everything like that, But it's a job to phone anyone. And Phil Reed, I was always pretty friendly with Reedy over the years. And always had tremendous respect for his riding, to be honest with you. I always thought he was one of the better riders. I know he had the naughty with Bill Ivey that year and all the rest of it. But you can go on and on about the guys. And of course you move into the newer generation, don't you? The Charlie Williams era. Good grief, you know, what a star. But there really were some excellent people, I think.
But you know, when you said about walking back up to the Glencutry Road from the casino, was this one of the infamous times we hear about, which I never have had substantiated, where Mike would spend quite a bit of time in the palace and then go out for practice? Is that true?
I hate to say it, yes. Sorry, Mike. Yes, it was true. Yes, he was straight from the casino, and he hadn't been drinking, you know, sort of late in, but we were in the casino, yes. And yes, we sort of got thrown out at 4:30 or 5 or whatever it is, and just walked straight up to Glencutry Road.
I was very fortunate a couple of weeks ago, and we'll meet him again on Monday, if not before, to meet David Halewood, Mike's son.
Oh, really? That's interesting. He's coming over here?
He's coming through the parade lab.
Really? Now, that is interesting. I didn't know that. See, you're telling me information again.
Yeah, see, well, I'm a journalist now, you see.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about this. Can I see your card?
Yeah, there you are. Yeah, David doesn't take any part in bike racing at all. Lives with Pauline down in the south of Spain, just above Malaga there. And he was at Donington Park the other week when we were down there. Ducati. Lovely guy. And he's just coming over to do the parade lab. I think he starts in front of me anyway, probably about number 8 or something.
Oh, that's interesting. I really haven't never met him, so that's something I shall have to do, really. How old is he now, roughly?
22, 23.
Good Lord. I'm asking the questions there, Charlie.
I think so.
But again, you know, going back, it's very hard when you mention all the rides over the years. I mean, I became friendly with Tommy Robb, for example, and all these sort of people, the Cropsford. I mean, what a character when he came over, you know. What a man, the man who sort of reckoned he'd been overtaken by a pig going in a Ballacrane, wasn't it? I think it was. You know, and things like that.
He came to me after one practice and I said, "How you doing, Dave?" And he didn't really like the place, did he? You know, I mean, he liked the Isle of Man, but he didn't really like the TT circuit. And I said, "How you doing now? You're getting settled in?" He said, and he didn't really know where he was going either. He said, "I went into this bend tonight. This was just after practice." He said, "I saw the 300-yard marker, 200-yard marker, 100-yard marker, and then I saw this big sign saying fear."
That sounds about right, actually. I mean, there's the time when he turned up on the Glencutry Road with a map of the Isle of Man strapped to the tank. I mean, yeah, what a character. I mean, they're tremendous characters.
People think, present-day racers think this is where it's all at in the present day, and maybe it is. I think you disagree with that, eh?
Oh yes, I'm afraid I do. I think I go back. There's some really good people going back in those days. I mean, we're going back to the days of Bob McIntyre and all these sort of people. Alistair King, aren't we? They was sort of, the TT then was completely different, wasn't it? Okay, it was part of the world scene, and you got the top guys over here. Unfortunately, some didn't want to be here, and we know some of the results of that. But you did get a good sort of really strong entry, didn't you? All the guys who were TT riders, plus the guys who were out for the World Championship. So you got a strong entry. Great, talking about McIntyre and King, that's another little thing.
We've been going all afternoon now. This is the final.
I think he's being rude now. I think he said 2. And just one of the first times I came over here, and we stayed over here. We used to stay in what is now Churchill's or some other restaurant now up on Onken Head, just past Port Jack. And that was a Deeds in those days. And we stayed there quite a few times, and there was a restaurant there and a lovely daughter. I remember the lovely daughter. And they used to do restaurants in the evening, and the joy and behold one night we're sitting around the lads there having our dinner, and who should come in for an evening meal? Bob McIntyre and Alistair King. I mean, in those days that was we were just on cloud 9. We just had to go down the town and tell the lads who we had dinner with, you know.
But wasn't it the case in those days, John, that people did mix a lot better, the riders and the public, or did they not? I don't know.
Well, no, I think they still mix at the TT. I think in Grand Prix circles it's not quite so good now. They used to mix a lot more, because we all stayed in the hotels together, whereas now they've got these flash motorhomes, haven't they? I think in the TT the riders mingling is still pretty strong. And that's probably what makes the TT just a little bit different.
A little bit unique, isn't it? You know, I've really enjoyed that, John Brown. Thanks very much for speaking to us. I know you're an ardent TT supporter, and may you keep coming to TT for many years.
I'll even come and annoy you at breakfast time one of these days. Okay, Charlie, nice to talk to you.
Thank you, John Brown. Just pop in any time. 7 till 10, just pop in and just have an hour together. Right, okay. Just have a bit of chat. Okay. I've got Jeff too coming down on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yes.
So you can do it on Tuesday.
Okay.
Sometimes sort of past 7. meeting some very interesting people, some people that I don't really know so well, some people that I know very well. Now the TT racing, if you look in the programme, we have I'm not going to go through all the races, but we have 125, 250, 400, 600 productions, 1000 production, Formula 1 and sidecars. But there's also another big event in the programme that's listed every year, and that is the TT Lap of Honour. Now the TT Lap of Honour started quite some years ago, and it's basically for old farts like myself who want to go out and parade on old machinery. That's the most important thing. Old TT machinery, which has been raced around the TT in years gone by. It's been sponsored by different people, by Honda, Benelli, all sorts of people over the years, Motor Guzzi. But this year's sponsor is doing it completely off his own bat. I don't think I know a bigger enthusiast in the classic, I don't mean classic racing, but in the classic movement and talking about old motorbikes and particularly Hondas, Luke Lawlor. Hi Luke.
Hello Charlie, how are you?
That was a build-up, wasn't it?
Great. Yeah. I'll see you later in the park.
Luke, you put a tremendous amount of both time and money into classic racing bikes. You're very, very well connected, should I say, with the likes of Jim Redmond, Tommy Robb and people like Phil Reed, of course. What did you get out of it?
Well, it all started when we went to Aston in '98, and I had bought a few Hondas, and we met the lads in the garage, and we decided to bring them out of retirement. They were all delighted to get back onto the machines and get going again, and so it started from that, and we just got machines back again and built them up, and here we are. But anyway, this year we have Jim Redmond's original 254 that won the TT in '64, and I have the original replica and hat. So Jim will be there in Castletown on Sunday, sign autographs, and the people can see all this memorabilia which I have. I have Phil Reed's, Jim Redmond's, and a lot of Mike Hayward's. And I believe David Hayward is coming over, and I'd like to meet him and talk to him about some of his father's trophies. But I'm collecting all the time, and I've two 254s, I have a CR93, and we're working on a Benelli at the moment, which we just fired up yesterday. We hope we have that ready for the parade. Also a little 50. So it should be, keep our fingers crossed, we should have a good day.
You've also got a Yamaha for Phil, I believe.
Yeah, Phil is number one on this Yamaha. We put a lot of work into this Yamaha. It's going very well. We were out on test a new engine, and it's going well. But you know, things can happen around the course, but we hope it's going to go well.
Now, Phil normally rides that Yamaha, and I'm going to split on him here now. He normally rides it with green plates, which would have been lightweight 250 with the 350 engine in. Now, which engine's it got in this year?
Well, we had to change some barrels and pistons, so as far as I know, it's 250. It was a 350 engine, but we got that engine blew up, so we got brand new 250 barrels and pistons. So it's a 250 really.
Well, that's what he told me. I was at Donington Park the other week, and he told me that. He said, I said, you always ride that 350 and put green plates on your cheat. And he said, no, it's a 250 this year. So he's telling the truth. You heard it first on Radio TT that Phil Reed's telling the truth. Now, what about Tommy? Tommy's down to ride a bike.
Yeah, Tommy had a little bit of a hip problem. I think he's okay now, and he's coming to the island tomorrow, as far as I know. And he's riding the Bob McIntyre Honda. And he's looking really forward to riding it. And we have Ralph Bryan's on the CR93, and Jim, we had just a little bit of bad news. We were revving up Jim's bike and we dropped the valve, so that won't be going, but it'll be on show at Castletown and at the grandstand. On Sunday evening, after the Formula 1 on Saturday evening, we're starting up the bikes at the grandstand at 6:30. If anybody wants to come and hear the sweet noise of the Honda 4.
You said that Jim's original 250 had dropped a valve and won't be taking part. What will Jim be riding then?
Well, we'll have to more than likely give him the Benelli, the 500 Benelli, wherever, you know, we'll have to give him a bike. I can't ride the Benelli and stand and let Jim stand there and be pushing away in the Benelli. So more than likely Jim will ride the Benelli, but it has to be run in. It's a brand new engine, so he'll have to take it easy.
Where did all this enthusiasm come from, Luke? Okay, you said it started in 1998, but before that, where did it all come from?
Well, I came to the TT in 1963, and I remember I got the bus in from Ronsway, and there was a bus conductor, a chippy of the girl called them in England. We called them bus conductors in Ireland. Yeah. Well, I fell into the uniform. I fell in love with this girl, give me a ticket in from Ronsway Airport. Anyway, I remember I made my way up to the grandstand, and it was the start of the 125 race. And from that moment, I got the bug. Was that the name? The bug. And I think it was Ralph Bryan's and Frank Parrish pushed away, and the sound of them pushing away, and the noise going down Glen Country Road. And I remember looking into the wire at the winner's enclosure, trying to get an autograph, and never knowing that someday these fellas would be riding my bikes. So it was a great great honour, and they're great guys. And they've done all the groundwork on the Hondas in the early years, and they're actually fabulous men. And I got Jim Redmond over to Ireland there some time ago, and I got him into a bar, and he mentioned this in his book, and I gave him 3 pints of Guinness, and he said, never do business with an Irishman in a public house. And I got him to come over to Skerries, which is a great little 100-mile road race in Ireland, and he came, and the crowds went mad to see him. So
he's still a very, very popular man.
Yes, he is very good. So I'm looking forward. I hope everything goes well, and the weather is good. So anybody who wants to see the bikes can come to Castletown on Sunday morning. Yes.
Right, and then of course, as you say, after the racing tomorrow, they can hear the bike started up at the grandstand.
At the grandstand at 6:30 on Saturday. Yeah, and fair play to Alan Robinson. There's a lot of work for the parade, as you know. He's a great guy, and want to thank Alan for all the help he's given us.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'd all like to thank you for sponsoring the parade this year. It means that I'll be out there yet again with all those names you mentioned, and a whole bunch. I think probably about 100 riders are going to be out in that parade. So we look forward to that. Thanks, Luke Lawlor.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. That was great, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. Well, you see, that these people, we tend to speak to the riders, and quite right. I mean, that's what the TT is here and now, not in the past. But we have got to remember the past. It's so important, and it's people like Luke Lawlor that remind us of the past and keep those beautiful bikes and bring them out every year. Well, in fact, he goes out quite a few times with them. So it's really important that we remember the past. Shandy over there, look. Let's go over with Shandy.
We've got time.
We can.
Yeah, we have. We can do some more in a few minutes. Just got to take a commercial at one record, so just a few minutes' time. But of course, before we go to the break, you are a national treasure yourself.
Thank you. You're so kind. National monument, national relic, I think now.
We have to, spruce you up every now and again, give you a bit quick polish, and bring you out for TT.
Oh yeah, well that's all I can have. It's not Argus anymore. It's just a spit and polish, isn't it?
Okay, this is Tesco Radio TT.
Yeah, here we are at the Honda Day, and I think everything's Honda apart from the bike that just went away. I think it was a Ducati, wasn't it? But still, we won't bother about that, will we? Okay, now it's really interesting, as I said before, speaking to different people, and not necessarily the riders. We want to speak to the riders, sure we do, but there's so many people that we never get to speak to. We just had a nice chat with Luke Lawlor there and John Brown before that. But Mark Davies, Mark is the actual. I'll give you an introduction before I actually bring him on. Mark is the motorcycling manager, or manager for motorcycling, all things Honda. Is that right, Mark?
For the UK, that's right, yeah.
And how long have you held that position?
Strangely enough, only since December. Before that, I was running the car business.
For Honda?
For Honda as well, yeah.
How do they compare then, the bike and the car business?
Well, cars is a big business. It's a commodity, really. Bikes is a completely different thing. It's much more emotional. Customers completely different. Customers much more knowledgeable. And at the end of the day, it's a hell of a lot more fun.
Are you supposed to say that?
Well, maybe not, but I have.
So you were telling me off air that you've had a long association with motorbikes, and you're in fact from Aberdare. Aberdare's at the site of a famous race circuit.
Yes, it is indeed. It's the site of the famous race circuit that Neil Tuxworth had his bad accident on. But yeah, it's still running. I think it'll be July the 20th and 21st this year, the Aberdare Park Road races, and still a wonderful place to go.
How important, Mark, is the TT to the UK sales of motorbikes?
For us, it's pretty fundamental. I mean, it is the ultimate test, I believe, certainly of road machines. And I think the customer recognises it as the ultimate test. I am absolutely convinced that when you take the number of people that come here, or what happens, for example, to motorcycle news circulation and TT fortnight, then clearly it must have a relevance to people. Now, if that has a relevance to those people that are buying motorcycle news or taking the journey over here every year, then it must have an impact on their perception of the bikes that are running around the place.
How do you consider then, that being the case, the future with Honda in general, not maybe Honda Britain, but Honda Japan, Honda Britain, Honda in general with the TT?
Well, the TT is very special for Honda, not just from a racing perspective and not just from a selling bikes perspective, but I suppose almost from a kind of a spiritual perspective. At the end of the day, this is where we started racing on a global scale. Now we race bikes, cars, boats, anything we can get our hands on, basically. And the whole thing started here. And that has quite a deep meaning for everybody in the company. That's why we've always got senior Japanese executives over for the TT. That's why we'll always have Japanese TV crews. We always need to feedback how we're doing, because it's got a place very deep in the heart of the organisation. So for us, the island's very special, and as long as the riders, as long as the fans want a TT, we'll be here.
And speaking from a personal point of view now, forget Honda, Mark Davies, how important is the TT for you?
I'd actually find that difficult to put into words. I find that when I get off the ferry or when I get off the plane, I can't quite describe how it feels, but there's something very, very magical about coming here. There's something incredibly special about the people that pilot ballistic missiles around the place. I mean, they're now fighter planes on the floor, I suppose. And I find the thing emotionally important. And you just knew as soon as you got off the plane this year, having not been able to come last year, then it just felt right. So for me personally, it's just an experience that I couldn't quite put into words, but there's nothing else I've come across yet that compares to it.
If you could say one thing, there's lots of people out there listening to this, and this will probably be played a couple of more times throughout the fortnight, so there'll be a lot of people out there of your customers, there'll be a lot of guys riding on this, probably driving, but let's concentrate on the bike owners, the Honda bike riders, especially considering it's TT week. Have you got a message for them at all?
I would say enjoy yourselves and enjoy yourselves thoroughly, but just be aware of your surroundings and ride safe.
Well, that's sound advice indeed. Good luck with the TT with Honda, and let's see both you, Mark, and Honda coming back to the TT for a long time to come.
For sure we will, I can promise.
Okay, that was a nice little touch there from Mark, General Sales Manager, or General Manager I should have said, for Honda. Are we still on air? I think we are, yes.
I was going to ask you, what do you ride? What do you ride?
What do I ride? Mm-hmm. What bikes do I ride?
What do you have at home?
You put me right on
well, you put him on the spot. Why shouldn't I put him on the spot?
He's struggling with this, isn't he?
That's the toughest question of the day.
I was just trying to think, Mark, have I got a Honda in the garage? And I haven't. No, they're all 2 Sunbeams and the rest are Yamahas. Yeah, that's all I've got.
Right.
But I've had Hondas, of course. I've had many Hondas, and of course I've raced for Honda. I was racing endurance Hondas for many years for Honda Britain. So my involvement with them goes back a long, long time.
We'll work on the basis he must have an emotional attachment to the ones he's got in the garage.
Well, that's pretty true, really. And in fact, only 2 years ago here for the parade lap, we were talking with Luke Lawlor before. I rode the parade lap and I rode one of Luke's bikes, one of the 254s. And in the previous parade laps, I had 2 that year. I rode a Palomines Firestorm. So, I'm still.
I'm just trying to get you a free bike, actually.
I've made amends.
Oh, you must have one.
He's feeling conscious.
Yes, have 2, Charlie. Have as many as you want.
Do you think it's working?
I don't know. We'll
now, something that we've got, you and I, Paul Moulton, have got to sort out before we leave here today. You know that we're having a head-to-head quiz between Neil Tuxworth, John McGuinness, and anyone that wants to enter into this sort of thing, down from the Hilton each night, starting I think tomorrow night. But we really need to sort this out. Basically, it's going to run something like this. I'm going to be the question master, and whoever wants to come in and challenge those two, who I can tell you are real TT aficionados, they know quite a lot about the TT. But if someone wants to come in and challenge them, it won't cost them anything. And for every question that the punter gets right and they don't, £5 goes to charity.
Great.
So I'm not sure about the charity, and I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work, but we are going to do something like that. So I'm looking forward to that. But you and I need to sort it out.
It's not everything but bikes charity, is it?
It's nothing to do with everything but bikes at all. In fact, I don't know what the charity is.
Okay, well, listen, we must take a break. We need to move on. It's coming round to 4:30.
Hello, how are you doing?